Hey YouTube, or BitChute, whichever platform you're watching on. This is Austin in Vintage Warfare, another firearms review. And today I wanted to talk about a pretty unique pistol, something that you don't really see a whole lot, but it did inspire directly the Army's new sidearm of choice, the Sig 320. And that pistol would be the Sig Sauer P250. And this one's unique because this is a specifically only double action pistol. That's pretty unique because in essence, that makes this a semi-automatic revolver. And a lot of people kind of have some qualms with it because they don't understand the trigger on this weapon. In reality, it's just because most people aren't used to shooting a true double-action only pistol, at least in this form. And you can see, and I'll get into it when I zoom in a little bit more on this thing when we cover the features, but it's very, very dead on or similar looking to the Sig 320 with only a couple minor differences. Now, I understand that this is also considered to be a modular pistol, which means from what I gather, is you could take the chassis of the weapon out of the frame in this pistol and place it into another to do, I don't know what. I think it means to change the calibers out or something like that. But I want to go over the features of it and what I do know about it, and to be honest with you, this is a good pistol. It's just something that people aren't used to. So with that being said, I'm going to get into the overall features and we'll talk about disassembly, assembly, and all that fun stuff. So let's get to it. Okay, so now that we're a little bit more zoomed in on this guy here, you can kind of see the similarities in appearance with the Sig 320 and this guy right here. This has the same thumb cutouts as a Sig 320, same overall look of the frame, similar on the slide. The only difference is it's a little bit thicker on the 250 and there are front serrations on both sides. Now, another thing to keep in mind with this is the 250 might have directly inspired the 320, and a lot of people talk really good stuff about the Sig 320. I personally think the Sig 320 is amazing, but the Sig 250 gets a little bit of heat because it is a double action only, as I had mentioned earlier, and a lot of people don't understand how the trigger is supposed to function. And that's the first feature we're going to talk about, because I believe it to be important. A lot of people say it takes too much pressure, this is a very harsh trigger, and that's not true at all. The difference is this is a long trigger pull, so it doesn't take more pressure. It just requires you to actually, instead of using a double single action where you can manipulate where the trigger starts in the beginning before you even pull the trigger or whatever, this one requires that you actually know how to manipulate a trigger in the first place. This is actually a really good pistol to practice your trigger squeeze. And that's the reason people jerk their shots with this thing, is because they're pulling the trigger and it's a long squeeze and then they jerk down because they're not expecting that. A lot of striker fire pistols, a lot of single and double action pistols don't have that issue. This is still a good trigger, it's just different. That's why I keep saying it's kind of like a semi-automatic revolver. Now, the other features that I'm going to talk about is, or at least the ones that I like, it has a very simple takedown system, very nice magazine release. It's not ambidextrous, but it is big and responsive, and I like big and responsive magazine releases. I don't like the tiny stuff. Some people got mad at me in my Glock video because I was talking trash on some of the older generation Glocks, and well, I'm sorry, the little rectangular magazine releases were garbage. Sorry. But this has a very responsive magazine release, and the magazines themselves, you don't really have to do a flick of the wrist if you're running and gunning, which I enjoy. It just comes straight out. A lot of tension in there to keep this shooting out, and I like that. So that's another feature I enjoy. The slide release or slide catch right here, it's decent, small, but gets the job done. It has this kind of protruding part here, so your thumb really catches it. It's not a really small, tiny one like Glocks. Now, let's get into the disassembly overall. So right here you see that you have a lever, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to rack this to the rear here, and you can see this little divot, this cutout, and this front end right here is going to go around the inside. So you're going to push down on this piece here until it's like that and it's facing downward. Okay, now all you got to do is push this forward and it comes right out. just rack the slide forward, comes off. So there's your frame. You could see your there's your hammer for the double action only, as I had said previously. Pretty standard other than that. And then here are your internal components. There's your slide. There's your spring and guide rod. Right here, nothing to write home about. Here's your barrel. And then here's the inside of the slide. Nothing crazy. So now that we've taken it apart, got to put it back together. So same thing with most semi-automatic pistols. You're going to drop that barrel in, rack it to the rear. You're going to take your guide rod side towards this latch right here. That's where your guide rod's going to rest, and that is the well for your spring. And this one, you kind of have to guide it through the spring because it does kind of, it's more of a pain than my other semi-automatics. So you're going to push that through the well, and then you're going to rack it into that little latch there. That's how it should sit. Now all you got to do for reassemblies, you're going to line up those rectangular grooves on those little kind of looks like a mini chair. That's how I kind of describe it to people, but you're going to line those rectangles up over the top of those rails, slide it right over the top, rack it to the rear, and then all you're going to do is push this right back to where it was before, and it'll click right back into place. Rack it forward, and it's good to go. So that is the Sig P250. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. It's been Austin Vintage Warfare. If you want me to cover anything, let me know in the comments. For my BitChute people, my YouTube people, like, sub, comment, and for those on BitChute, I did add a subscribe star to the channel, so if you want to check out my tier list, I'm trying to come up with some good incentives for donations or whatever, so just check it out if you feel so inclined. Other than that, stay tuned for the next video, and I'll see you later.